Stand by to launch FanStream Sports.
3, 2, 1.
Let's start.
Hello, sports fans. Welcome to FanStream Sports. Nothing but pure sports.
And welcome everybody to FanStream Sports, powered by DSP Media. This is the Fighting Irish Daily Blitz, and I'm your host, Rob Thidoff, also known as RPT. You can find me on Twitter at PThidoff. So for episode 46 today, I know it's probably not going to be a very popular subject. However, to me, it's popular, and I find it interesting. Women's basketball, NCAA women's basketball, that is. We have a pretty damn good team this year. In fact, Notre Dame pretty much has a pretty damn good team every year. Their first Final Four is in 1997, won the national title in 2001. And then I would say the 2010-2011 season, Skylar Diggins, that was her sophomore season. They finished runners-up to Texas A&M. They ended up beating, though, to get to the Final Four, Tennessee. It was actually here, or I don't live in Dayton, but in Ohio, in the Dayton regional. And they also beat Connecticut in the Final Four, but they lost to a Texas A&M team. They had a pretty tall girl in the team. And I will say that with Muffet McGraw, except for when they won it in 2001 and 2018. When they lacked that inside presence, that's when they would typically lose either in the Final Four or in the national title game. So having said that, as I said, pretty much since that 2010-11 season, they've been in the hunt for a Final Four national title. They did have a setback in the 2019-2020 season. Their team was pretty much gutted after that 2019 national runner-up team. That team, all the girls, the starting five went to the WNBA, had some transfers. They actually had a losing season that year. The following year, Coach Niall Ivey took over as Coach McGraw retired. That was the year coming off of COVID. They were somewhat okay. They didn't make the NCAA tournament. Their record wasn't good enough. But then last year, they had a pretty solid bounce-back season, had a heartbreaking loss to NC State in the Sweet 16, a game they pretty much controlled until the end, and heartbreaking loss. And the way they lost that game, though, is pretty much the reason I'm going to tell you. The only thing that can stop this team, barring any sort of major injury to a star player like Olivia Miles, Sonia Citron, Maddie Westfeld, foul trouble in the tournament, that's something I can't predict. But barring any sort of fluky situation, the only thing that can stop this team from either a Final Four or a national title is turnovers. Right now, Notre Dame is averaging 16.1 turnovers per game. And they're beating the teams they're supposed to, even some really quality teams like a Connecticut. Connecticut, though, averages 16.9. But what I see going into the tournament, as you get stiffer competition, or just one of those teams that has a really good day that are, hitting threes that they usually don't hit, if you add the turnovers in there, that could be a problem. So if we look at, and just let me point out here, we beat the shit out of Boston College on Sunday. We had 19 turnovers. They had 18. I know that's only one difference, but when you're beating a team that bad and still having more turnovers than them, as I said before, that's going to be a problem down the road as you get into the NCAA tournament. So the top four teams last week, and I know Indiana lost last week and went down to number 6. This is still going to further prove my point. Number 1, South Carolina. They averaged 13.5 turnovers per game. Stanford, 13.1 turnovers per game. Ohio State, coached by former Notre Dame assistant Kevin McGuff, 13.7 turnovers per game. Indiana, 12.7 turnovers per game. If we play any of those teams and continue to do that 16 turnovers per game, we may still win, but I don't like our chances as much. So further, I mentioned earlier, we lost to NC State in the Sweet 16. We led pretty much anywhere from 10 to 12 points throughout that game last year. How many turnovers did we have during that game, do you ask me? 16 turnovers that game. We ended up losing that 10-point lead, and I believe we ended up losing by about 3 or 4 points. More or less, we lost it at the end. I think we were even up by 2 points with a minute to go. But turnovers, I can't say it enough. We cut down on this right here. There is no stopping this team. They will win a national title. I will say that. I know I sound negative during football And for men's basketball, especially now, this is a different story. We have the talent to do this. So we average 84.1 points per game. We're only giving up just under 60 per game. So even with that 24-point margin, yes, that's great. But when you're playing South Carolina, Stanford, OSU, and Indiana, and even UConn, who turns the ball over even a little bit more than us, you can't keep doing that. And what I hope Coach Ivy does this week, they played this past Sunday, and they play on the ACC network against North Carolina, who's ranked number 22 at the time, at North Carolina at 4 p.m. I want to see how much improvement for the turnover department that is, because there's no school in session. They're still in fall break. And so they don't have the schoolwork to deal with this week. They pretty much have all week to focus on what they've been lacking so far this season. And with that week preparation, and I'll tell you this right now, for the remainder of the year, I'm going to keep track of, starting with the North Carolina game this week, how many turnovers they have. And I hope to God it's less than 16.1. So we'll see how that average either comes down or goes up for the remainder of the year. But I just want to say, too, just give women's basketball a chance, because I'll tell you this, for one, and nothing to say bad against the men's team, they're awful right now. I said that earlier this week. And with women's basketball, there's more of a focus on the fundamentals of the game. It's not just one-on-one action. It's more of that team concept. I pretty much grew up with it. My sister, Tracy, my oldest sister, Tracy, great basketball player during her day. So I grew up with watching her games. The high school we went to, they were at one time, they were probably one of the top teams in the state of Ohio. And if you just look up Delphi St. John's women basketball, you'll see how good they were. And then she went on to college too. So as I said before, I've grown up with it. So I go into a lot of women's games, and it can be very exciting, especially this Notre Dame team. As I mentioned before, 84 points per game, and then they're only giving up 59. So they shoot the three well. The only thing is the turnovers. And the broadcaster, I forget her name. It's Debbie, I forget her, but on ESPN, she said too, the only thing she had seen, and even before she had said it, and the prior games that I had watched, they turn the ball over way too much. And I forgot to mention, their two top players do it the most. Olivia Miles, 3.4 turnovers per game. Sonia Citron, 2.8 turnovers per game. So I hope Coach Ivy has challenged them this week to say, hey, we got to get these numbers down, because you take away that, we got our third national title within the last third national title, and then the second within the last 5 years. So also want to mention today too, I know you're going to see this in my little quick snippet. Sam Hartman, the talented transfer quarterback from Wake Forest, is coming to Notre Dame. But my mom wanted to mention, I want to give a shout out to my mom, Jane Thidoff. She said he's really hot. He's really easy on the eyes for the ladies out there. So my mom said she'll be definitely watching every single Notre Dame game. She does that anyway, but she'll be especially honed in on the quarterback, Sam Hartman. She's hot and heavy for him right now. So as I mentioned before, give women's basketball a chance. This team is really damn good. And with the men's team just not being that great, focus your time to the women's game as well this year. And you decrease these turnovers, we're going to win a national title. I can't say it enough. So thank you for joining episode 46. And as always, go Irish.